He kissed me the same way he threatened me, like he owned the air I breathed. And maybe that's why I didn't shove him away. Or maybe it was because for the first time in my life I wanted to be ruined. The son of the mayor had a reputation that could send mothers hiding their daughters and fathers locking their doors. Lucas Hayes was beautiful, ruthless, and untouchable. And for some twisted reason that I still couldn't explain, he decided that Ethan Miller, the boy who stocked shelves at a local grocery store, was the one he wanted. I met him on a rainy Tuesday, the kind of day when thunder feels like it's crawling into your bones and the streets of New Haven smell of gasoline and wet asphalt. I was dragging crates of soda into the store when his car pulled upon of those sleek black ones that looked like it had been carved out of shadows. He didn't get out right away. He sat there, windows tinted, like he was surveying prey. When the door finally swung open, he emerged like a scene written in arrogance. Tailored coat, perfect hair untouched by the rain, and eyes that saw through me like I was a locked door he already had the key to. "You're Ethan, right?" His voice wasn't a question. It was a statement, a verdict. I remember blinking at him, confused. "Do I know you?" "You will." That was the beginning. I didn't know whether to laugh or to run, but Lucas Hayes had this ability to tilt the world around him. He didn't ask for things, she demanded them. And against all reason, people gave in. He wasn't cruel in the obvious way. He wasn't the kind of man who raised his voice. He didn't need to. He'd tilt his head, smile like sin dressed in silk, and suddenly the ground beneath you shifted. The next few weeks, he appeared everywhere. At the store, leaning against the counter, pretending he needed cigarettes. At the diner where I grabbed coffee before work, sliding into my booth without permission. Once, even outside my apartment at midnight, sitting on the hood of his car, waiting. "You're obsessed," I told him once, more angry than afraid. "I'm persistent," he corrected, smirking. "And I'm patient. You'll come around." I wanted to hate him. God, I wanted to. But every time he was close, every time his eyes lingered too long or his voice dipped low enough to make my chest tighten, I felt something else, something reckless, something that scared me more than his persistence ever could. The town whispered about him, about me. My best friend, Jordan, said I was insane. "You know what he is, right? He's poison, Ethan. Guys like that don't fall in love, they collect. And once they've had enough, they throw you away." I told Jordan he was right. I swore I'd stay away. But swearing something doesn't stop the way your heart beats when the devil looks at you like you're the only salvation he's ever wanted. One night, he cornered me outside the store. The rain was back, heavy and merciless, soaking us both. He stepped close, too close, his hand brushing against mine with a softness that didn't match the storm in his eyes. "Why do you keep fighting me?" he asked, his voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. "Because I don't belong in your world." He tilted his head, studying me. "Or maybe I don't belong in mine, Ethan. Maybe that's why I need you." And then he kissed me. God help me, I let him. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't tender. It was fire catching dry wood, smoke curling in my lungs. My hands should have shoved him away, but instead they clutched at his jacket, dragging him closer. For one dizzying second, I forgot the whispers, the danger, the impossibility of it all. For 1 second, I wanted to be his. When he pulled back, rain dripping down his jawline, he looked at me like I'd given him the answer to a question he'd been asking all his life. "You'll see," he whispered. "You were always going to say yes." I should have walked away that night, but instead, I found myself watching the storm and realizing that maybe I was already drowning and part of me wanted to. Lucas Hayes wasn't just the mayor's son. He was the crown prince of a city that bowed beneath his father's shadow. People feared him, adored him, envied him. But I saw cracks, moments when his arrogance slipped, when his laughter broke, when his eyes turned hollow. And those cracks called to me, like some broken part of me recognized the same fracture in him. He started taking me places, rooftops overlooking the city, hidden spots by the river, quiet backstreets that smelled of freedom. And slowly, I began to see the boy beneath the armor. The one who hated the expectations strangling him, who lived in a golden cage with bars invisible to everyone else. "I don't want to be my father," he confessed once, staring at the skyline. But everyone's already decided that's who I'll become. You don't have to, I said. He looked at me then, so raw it made my chest ache. That's why I need you. You make me believe I could be someone else. I didn't answer, couldn't, because every time I let him in, I risked losing myself. But lover, whatever dangerous, burning thing this was doesn't ask for permission. It just grows, wild and reckless, until it's too big to contain. And maybe Lucas was right. Maybe I was always going to say yes. Lucas didn't stop after that night. If anything, kissing me only made him more relentless. He showed up at the grocery store so often my boss threatened to call the cops. But Lucas wasn't doing anything technically illegal, just lean against the shelves of canned soup, smirking, waiting for me to acknowledge him. And every customer who walked in either gawked at him like a movie star or whispered about how I'd somehow caught his attention. One evening, after closing, he offered to walk me home. I told him no, that I could take care of myself. But Lucas wasn't someone you dismissed with a single word. He walked beside me anyway, hands in his pockets, like he belonged there. You're stubborn, he remarked, as if it were a compliment. And you're arrogant, I shot back. His lips curved. Perfect match, don't you think? The worst part was sometimes, in moments like that, I almost believed him. Jordan wasn't letting me off easy. My best friend had a way of seeing through me, even when I tried to pretend nothing was happening. We were sitting at our usual diner booth, the kind with cracked red leather seats and a jukebox that hadn't worked in years, when he leaned across the table and said, "You're falling for him, aren't you?" I nearly choked on my coffee. No, absolutely not. Jordan just raised an eyebrow, unimpressed. Ethan, you've got that look. The one you get when you're pretending you're not terrified, but secretly you're already in too deep. I groaned, sinking back into the booth. You don't understand. She's Lucas Hayes. He doesn't date. He doesn't even. I don't know what this is. He just decided I'm his next game. Then walk away, Jordan said simply. I tried, I admitted quietly. And then he kissed me. Jordan rolled his eyes so hard I thought they'd get stuck. Great. So the world's biggest jerk kissed you, and now you're letting him screw with your head. But Jordan didn't get it. He didn't see the way Lucas looked at me when he thought no one else was watching. He didn't hear the catch in his voice when he admitted he didn't want to be his father. There was something real there, something I couldn't ignore, no matter how much I wanted to. A week later, Lucas took me to a rooftop downtown. The city stretched beneath us, lights blinking like a million restless hearts. He didn't try to kiss me this time. Instead, he handed me a cup of coffee, real, steaming hot. Not the kind of fancy latte I expected from him. You're full of surprises, I muttered, taking a sip. You think you've got me figured out? I think you want people to believe you're impossible to figure out, I countered. But underneath, you're just lonely. He flinched almost imperceptibly, but I caught it. His jaw tightened, his gaze fixed on the skyline. You don't know me, he said finally. Then let me, I whispered before I could stop myself. His eyes snapped to mine, and for the first time since I'd met him, Lucas Hayes looked afraid. Not of me, but of the possibility that I might actually mean it. But the world wasn't kind to boys like us, especially not in a town where his father's name ruled like law. The first real blow came 2 nights later. I was walking home when I noticed the whispers, people staring at me, shaking their heads. It wasn't until Jordan shoved a phone in my face that I understood. There we were, on that rooftop. Someone had taken pictures, Lucas leaning close, our hands brushing, the tension between us undeniable. And now it was everywhere. Ethan, Jordan said carefully, you need to end this, now, before it ruins you. But how do you end something that already feels like it's consumed you? Lucas showed up at my apartment that night, furious. Not at me, but at the world. They won't stop, he muttered, pacing. They'll twist it. They'll drag your name through the mud just to get to me. I told you this would happen, I said, my voice shaking. I don't belong in your world. Then let me into yours, he snapped, turning on me. His eyes burned, wild and desperate. Let me fight for this for you. Don't you dare push me away now. I wanted to scream at him, to tell him he was selfish for dragging me into his chaos. But when he reached for me, his hand trembling against my cheek, I saw the boy beneath the arrogance again. The boy who wasn't untouchable at all. And I couldn't push him away. The days that followed were a blur of fire and fallout. The town was divided, half gossiping about the scandal, the other half watching me like I'd been branded. My boss told me not to come back until things settled down. Jordan stopped speaking to me for a while, too angry to even look at me. But Lucas stayed. He showed up every night, sometimes with food, sometimes with nothing but his presence. He never asked for forgiveness, never begged. He just existed beside me, a constant I hadn't realized I needed. One evening, as we sat in silence on my tiny couch, he said quietly, "I don't care what they say. I'm not letting you go." "Why me?" I asked, voice raw. He didn't hesitate. "Because you're the only thing in this entire city that feels real." And maybe that was the moment I stopped fighting. Maybe that was the moment I realized I was already his. But happiness, even the fragile kind, never lasts long. It was his father who finally struck. Mayor Hayes wasn't a man who tolerated weakness, and to him I was weakness incarnate. He summoned Lucas to his office one night, and though I wasn't there, I heard every word from Lucas later, his voice low, bitter, trembling with anger he could barely contain. "He told me I was a disgrace," Lucas whispered, staring at the floor, "that I was throwing away everything for you. And then he gave me a choice. You or my future." My stomach twisted. "And what did you say?" Lucas lifted his gaze, and the fury there made my breath catch. "I told him I'd rather lose everything than lose you, but the cost of defiance was higher than either of us imagined." The next morning, threats began. Not just toward Lucas, but toward me. Notes slipped under my door. Slurs spray-painted across the grocery store's back wall. The kind of ugliness that made you question if love was worth it at all. Lucas tried to shield me, but the truth was we were already standing in the fire, and there was no way out except through it. One night, when the weight of it all felt unbearable, I broke. "I can't do this, Lucas," I whispered, tears burning hot. "I can't keep being the reason you're hated, the reason you're at war with your father. Maybe Jordan was right. Maybe you'll wake up one day and realize I was just a mistake." For a long moment he didn't move, and then he closed the distance between us, gripping my face in his hands like I was the only anchor he had. "You don't get it," he said fiercely. "You're not my mistake, Ethan. You're the only thing I've ever done right." And when he kissed me then, I knew. I knew that no matter how hard it got, no matter what it cost, I wasn't walking away. The morning after Lucas kissed me with that fierce desperation, I woke to the sound of knocking hard, relentless, like the world was pounding on my front door. For a moment I thought it was him again, but when I opened the door, 2 police officers stood there, rain dripping off their uniforms. "Ethan Miller?" one of them asked. My heart dropped into my stomach. They weren't there to arrest me, though the whole block was already craning their necks to watch. They just wanted to ask questions, routine checks, they said, about Lucas Hayes. Apparently, the mayor's son had been missing for hours. Except he wasn't missing. He was in my bed, his jacket tossed over a chair, his hair a mess from sleep. The officers didn't see him, but the moment I closed the door, Lucas sat up, running a hand through his hair, cursing under his breath. "They're watching us," he muttered. "They'll use everything every second we spend together as proof I'm spiraling." His voice was sharp, but his eyes were softer, almost pleading. I could see Itha's father's reach tightening around us, trying to strangle this fragile thing we had before it could even bloom. "Lucas," I whispered, "what if this ruins you?" He swung his legs over the bed, looked at me with a defiance that sent a shiver down my spine. "Maybe I need to be ruined. Maybe that's the only way I'll ever belong to myself." The storm around us only worsened. By the weekend, my apartment building had been tagged with slurs in bright red spray paint. My landlord left me a note saying my situation was attracting too much attention. The grocery store told me not to bother coming back at all. And everywhere I went, people stared. Some with pity, most with disgust. Lucas tried to shield me, whisking me away to rooftops, abandoned drive-ins, out-of-town diners where nobody knew our names. In those moments, it was almost easy to forget. Almost. One night, while we sat in his car parked by the river, he reached across the console, threading his fingers through mine. "Tell me one thing," he said quietly. "What? If we lived in a world where none of this mattered, where my name meant nothing, where your past wasn't a weight, would you still choose me?" His question carved something open inside me. I swallowed hard, looked him straight in the eye, and whispered, "I already did." But the world doesn't care about whispered truths. The breaking point came in the form of a headline. "Mayor's son in gay scandal, secret lover exposed." There it was. My name, my face, plastered across the front page of the New Haven Daily. By noon, my phone was flooded with calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Reporters camped outside my building. Strangers hurled insults at me in the street. And by evening, my mother, who lived 2 towns over, called me in tears. "Ethan," she sobbed, "what have you gotten yourself into? Do you know what people are saying? Do you know what this will do to you?" I wanted to tell her it wasn't my fault, that I hadn't asked for this. But what good were excuses when the whole world already decided who I was? That night I broke. I told Lucas I couldn't do it anymore. I told him I was done. The words shattered something in his eyes, but he didn't argue. He didn't beg. He just stood there in the rain, jaw clenched, shoulders shaking as if he were holding back everything he wanted to say. And then he turned and walked away. For the first time since I'd met him, Lucas Hayes left me without a fight. The weeks that followed were a blur of silence. No texts, no calls, no shadow of a car waiting outside my apartment. Jordan returned, cautious but loyal, filling the silence with his own brand of sarcastic comfort. "Honestly," he said one afternoon, tossing me a beer, "maybe this is for the best. That guy was dangerous." But the word didn't sit right. Dangerous wasn't the whole truth. Lucas wasn't just fire that burned, was warmth, too, in ways I hadn't expected. And without him, the world felt colder. At night, I'd lie awake replaying every look, every laugh, every kiss. I told myself it was better this way, that he'd move on, that I'd heal. But deep down, I knew the truth. I wasn't waiting for the world to forget. I was waiting for him. He came back on a night when the city was quiet, when the streets felt hollow and the stars refused to shine. I opened my door to find him there, drenched, his knuckles raw like he'd been fighting ghosts. His eyes, those sharp, arrogant eyes, were red-rimmed, broken in a way that made my chest ache. "Ethan," he whispered, and for the first time his voice cracked. I tried to stay away, but I can't. I don't want a life without you." I should have slammed the door. I should have reminded him of the chaos he'd left behind. But instead, I stepped aside. And when he collapsed into my arms, shaking with a vulnerability he never showed anyone else, I knew I was gone. Completely, irreversibly his. The next days blurred into a fragile kind of heaven. We didn't talk about the world outside. We didn't talk about his father or the scandal. We just existed, cooking cheap pasta in my tiny kitchen, falling asleep tangled on the couch, laughing at stupid late-night reruns. For the first time, Lucas wasn't the mayor's son. He wasn't arrogant or untouchable. He was just a boy, messy, complicated, human. And God, I loved him for it. But reality doesn't stay locked outside forever. One afternoon, while Lucas dozed against my shoulder, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "If you care about him, end it, or we'll make sure you both regret it." My stomach twisted. I didn't know who it was. Supporters of his father? People from town? It didn't matter. The threat was real. I looked at Lucas then, his face peaceful for once, and I knew. The world wasn't just angry. It was dangerous. And if I stayed, I might destroy him. So I made the hardest choice of my life. That night, while he slept, I pressed a kiss to his forehead and whispered, "I love you." The words I'd been too afraid to say when he was awake. Then I packed a bag, slipped out the door, and disappeared into the dark. I left New Haven behind. For weeks I drifted, couch to couch, town to town, chasing jobs that didn't last. I thought leaving would protect him. I thought distance would make it easier. But every night, I dreamt of his voice, his hands, his laugh echoing in the quiet. And with every passing day, the truth settled heavier in my chest. I hadn't saved him. I'd just broken us both. 3 months later, I stood outside a gas station in a nowhere town, staring at the payphone like it might bite me. My fingers shook as I dialed the number I swore I'd never call again. It rang once, twice, and then his voice, tired, guarded. Hello. Couldn't breathe. For a second I thought about hanging up. But then I whispered, Lucas. Silence. Long, heavy silence. Then, sharp intake of breath. Ethan. Just hearing my name on his lips shattered every wall I'd built. Where are you? He demanded, urgency bleeding through his voice. Tell me where you are. I'm coming. No. I cut in, tears burning my eyes. Lucas, you can't. I left because I love you too much to destroy you. Destroy me? His laugh was harsh, broken. Ethan, don't you get it? You're the only thing keeping me alive. And right then, in the middle of that nowhere town with the payphone crackling between us, I realized something. Leaving hadn't saved him, because the truth was, we weren't meant to survive apart. The line between us crackled with distance, but his voice carried across it like a lifeline. Ethan, Lucas said again, lower now, pleading. Tell me where you are. I should have hung up. I should have protected him the way I swore I would. But in that moment, listening to him breathe on the other end of the line, I realized I couldn't keep running. Not from him, not from myself. So I told him. Took him less than 12 hours. When his car pulled into that dusty gas station lot, I felt my knees weaken. He got out, hair a mess, jacket wrinkled, eyes burning with a mix of exhaustion and fury, and then he was running across cracked asphalt, straight toward me. He didn't say a word. He just pulled me into him, arms crushing, lips crashing against mine like he was reclaiming what had always been his. And when he finally broke away, panting, he whispered against my skin, Don't you ever leave me again. We drove back together, the miles melting under us. I kept waiting for the fight for him to unleash all the anger I knew he carried. But instead, Lucas just held my hand over the console, like letting go even for a second would undo us. It wasn't until we reached New Haven that the storm truly broke. His father was waiting. Mayor Hayes was larger than life, a man whose presence filled every room like a shadow swallowing the light. He stood in his office, towering behind his desk, and when his eyes fell on me, I felt smaller than I ever had in my life. This is the boy, he sneered. This is what you've thrown everything away for? Lucas stepped forward, shielding me with his body. Yes, he said firmly, and I'd do it again. The mayor's jaw tightened. You're a disgrace. You'll ruin this family. You'll ruin yourself. For a long time, Lucas said nothing. Then, with a calm I didn't know he possessed, he replied, Maybe I don't want your family. Maybe I don't want what you built. Because if it means living like you without love, without honesty, then I'd rather burn it all down. The silence that followed was heavy, electric. I thought his father might strike him. But instead, the mayor's eyes flickered anger, yes, but something else too. Fear. Maybe even recognition. Because Lucas had broken free. And nothing his father could say would ever cage him again. We left that night, not in triumph, but in something better. Defiance wrapped in hope. It wasn't easy. The town still whispered. My job didn't magically return. Lucas was still called reckless, still painted as a scandal. But for the first time, we weren't running. We were building. Together. Months passed. Slowly, life shifted. People grew tired of the gossip. The headlines faded. And in their place, we carved out something of our own. Lucas started volunteering at a youth center downtown, pouring his restless energy into kids who needed someone to believe in them. Watching him there smiling, listening, Showing sides of himself he'd once hidden. I realized he wasn't just breaking away from his father. He was becoming someone new. And me? I found work at a local bookstore. The kind of quiet place where stories lived and no one cared who you kissed outside its doors. For the first time in years, I felt like I belonged. One evening, after closing up the shop, I found Lucas waiting outside. He leaned against his car, grinning that familiar arrogant grin but softer now, shaped by something truer. "Get in," he said. I rolled my eyes. Bossy as ever. But I got in. He drove us out of town, back to the rooftop where it all began. The city stretched beneath us, lights shimmering against the dark. "I used to think this view was everything," he said, slipping his hand into mine. "Power, control, the whole city at my feet. But it was nothing. Not compared to you." I laughed softly, shaking my head. "You're terrible at being humble. You know that?" "Maybe," he admitted, turning to face me fully. "But I'm good at knowing when I've found the one thing worth fighting for." And then, from his jacket pocket, he pulled out a small, worn box. My heart stopped. "Lucas." He opened it, revealing not some flashy diamond but a simple silver band plane. "Imperfect. Perfect. I don't want to wait for some perfect moment," he said, voice rough. "Because I already wasted too much time pretending I didn't need you. Ethan Miller, will you stay? Will you be mine in every way that matters?" Tears blurred the city lights. For a moment I couldn't speak. And then I laughed through the sob building in my chest, nodding furiously. "Yes," I whispered. "God, yes." When his lips met mine under the city sky, it wasn't fire or desperation this time. It was something gentler. Promise. A beginning. The whispers hadn't stopped. The world hadn't changed overnight. But in that moment, none of it mattered. Because I had said yes. At the most unexpected moment. And it was the best choice I had ever made. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.